Welcome to the latest episode of Five on the Floor on the Five Reasons Sports Network. Thanks for joining us on your favorite podcast app, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Red Circle. Also, the Five Reasons YouTube channel. Make sure you hit like, subscribe, and turn the notifications on so you can get content more than just the Heat. The new Messi and Company episode is up there right now. Also, check out Off the Floor. That's our new Discord server. We're going to start doing daily Q&As there. We're actually going to set up a separate channel for this. That was the vote from our Discord members. So check it out, $2.99 per month. Contests, updates, communication back and forth all day long with us and fellow Heat fans. It's a great place to be. Check out the link. It's right here in the YouTube description, the podcast description, also pinned to the top of the Five Reasons Twitter page. Also, check out shoptubculture.com. Big Miami Heat fans, and you'll be fans of them as well once you order from there, because I've done this before and it's really great stuff. Check it out, shoptubculture.com. This is handcrafted bath and body care. Use the code 5, F-I-V-E, that's F-I-V-E, and you'll get 10% off all orders of $20 or more. So that's 10% off all orders of $20 or more. Use the code 5, F-I-V-E. They've got very unique stuff there. You got somebody special in your life? I tell you, this is a great gift. Go to shoptubculture.com. Again, that's shoptubculture.com. And now, today's episode.
Down the Biscayne. Yikes. Five on the floor. Ride for my dogs. Where here's the thing. You can check the score. Hustle hard, couple scars. Wearing bubble frogs. Just like Butler said, you in trouble, y'all. Kept the floor playing. Got it all banned. Y'all seen the block. Stop with one hand. And Pat we trust, it's power, have the guts. We're here to bring the heat. Y'all can hang it up.
Welcome to Five on the Floor, a daily insider show on the Miami Heat and the NBA, featuring Ethan Skolnick, Greg Sylvander, and Alex Toledo, plus others from the Five Reasons Sports Network.
All right, welcome back to Five on the Floor. Here's today's floor plan. Well, your floor plan should be to check out our last episode. Greg and I, for about 30 minutes, went through some of the best Heat culture moments all over the map. It's a fun ep, and she's definitely checked it out. But we were doing that as we were waiting for a ruling from the league about the skirmish in New Orleans on Friday night. So that ruling has come down. So we're going to do a short episode here just to update you and give you our thoughts on it. We actually just did a playback. I think most fans agree with us on this, and I'll just say from the very start, I think the Heat got off relatively easy. So we'll get to it. Here it is, the discipline for the Pelicans Heat altercation. Greg, follow Greg at Greg Sylvander. Follow me, DJ Skolnick, at Five Reasons Sports. Jimmy Butler, 1-game suspension, along with Najee Marshall, by the way, from the Pelicans. No Heat fans really care about that. Jose Alvarado and Thomas Bryant, who were sparring separately, 3 games each. Nikola Jovic, this is the key one to me because it's not who was suspended, but who wasn't. Nikola Jovic suspended 1 game for leaving the bench. Not suspended. Tyler Hero, it looked like he left the bench. Bam Adebayo, it looked like he left the bench. Caleb Martin, kind of looked like he left the bench. We thought that all those guys could be suspended. They're not, which means that they're available for Monday night's game in Sacramento, not to mention, of course, Tuesday night's game in Portland, which is a game that the Heat certainly would like to win based on the circumstances of the summer. Jimmy Butler will be back for that one. Let's start with this. Oh, and by the way, we don't have an update on Tyler Hero as we speak on his injury status with his knee, although he doesn't seem to be on the injury report at the moment. But we'll update you on our other channels on Discord and on Twitter, obviously, when we get that. But Greg, overall thoughts on this? 1 game for Jimmy, 3 games for Thomas Bryant. Probably wasn't going to play in them anyway, and 1 game for Nikola Jovic.
I thought for the guys that got suspended, it was about what we maybe expected. To your point, it's more about the guys who didn't get suspended. There was an important part of the press release that when we all got it and you're reading through it, this is the part about Jovic that I think differentiates his suspension from maybe some of those other guys you saw leave the bench. It says that he is suspended 1 game without pay for leaving the bench area and entering an on-court altercation. So I think that they made a compassionate concession to these guys who weren't entering on-court altercations as Jovic did, which he seemed so bouted in that moment. So that was super cool to see Nico in that element. You could tell that he's got some Goran Dragic deep down inside of him somewhere as well with the toughness. So I like to see that. But ultimately, the Heat should feel good about this. I think if you think about Jimmy missing one game, it's a back-to-back set, right? So like maybe he was going to sit one anyway, not necessarily at this stretch. Maybe he could have played through that, but typically Jimmy is going to preserve himself. The Heat know how to manage that type of scenario. This will get dicier if Tyler can't play, but ultimately I thought it was going to be much worse. I thought that they maybe had a scenario where they were going to have half the players suspended one game and half the players suspended another game and kind of do that just to stagger it so that the Heat had enough available players. They did not even have to get near that type of scenario. So net positive for the Heat overall.
Yeah, and this is also with the context of the Heat still having some injured players. So, Drew Smith obviously out for the season. We've known that for a while. Josh Richardson is on the trip, is not expected to play on the trip because of the separated shoulder. Terry Rozier could be back for this game Monday. We'll have to see again what the injury report says. I'm not expecting that. I do think he'll probably play before the end of it. I said on playback that I don't know that it's necessarily the best idea if he's not fully back to condition to throw him out in Denver with the altitude for his first game back. So maybe if you can get him in the game in Portland, that would make sense, even if he's not a starter, even if maybe he's on a minutes restriction. And then Orlando Robinson missed the last game with a back problem, so not knowing the severity of that, but he was not available for the last game, but he is on the trip. You could actually see him there when all of this stuff was going down. So again, they're going to be without some guys, but it looked at one point like they could be down to 8 or 9. That's not going to be the case for this game. So the Alondas Williams, Cole Swider, Jamal Cain minutes, maybe Cain will play, but probably the other two will have to wait to see. The two ways got a lot of action. I do think that you hit on it. Because I saw Steve Popper, who covers the New York teams, was on there and he posted about the '97 series with the Heat and the Knicks and guys leaving the bench and all those suspensions, and they had to stagger the suspensions. And also, I've referenced what happened. With the Phoenix San Antonio series with Robert Ory knocking Steve Nash into the side into the scorers table,
Yeah.
and then of course that in my view kept Phoenix from going to the finals and maybe even winning a championship because Boris Diaw and Amari Stoudemire came off the bench, and that flipped that whole series. So anytime you see guys leave the bench, you're like, okay, the NBA is within its rights to suspend. The players know the rules, team knows rules. I think maybe the Heat has to drill this so that maybe the assistant coaches next time who were not instigating, but they also weren't keeping guys back enough. I don't think. I think maybe another conversation probably needs to be had about that. Stay back. Don't go across the line if you're not in the game, because this could have been really problematic. But it does seem like what the NBA decided essentially is none of those guys were trying to make things worse. And so, okay, we'll let them off the hook. We'll give Jovic the suspension. Again, the Thomas Bryant suspension. I think Thomas Bryant probably got more cred with Heat fans for this than for anything
Yes.
else done this season. So this probably turns out to be good for his reputation with Heat fans. And you hit on it with Jimmy, which is that he's going to miss some games anyway. I don't know that you necessarily would have picked the game in Sacramento, after 2 days off to be the game, but he should be ready to go for Portland. And I've said before the trip, they need to get out of this trip 2-2. And I think worst case scenario now, they're going to be 2-2 because they're going to beat the Blazers, I would think, on Tuesday with Jimmy healthy. And then, again, the Sacramento game to me was a coin flip to a certain degree, as was the New Orleans game. They got the New Orleans game even under those circumstances. And the Denver game, just don't embarrass yourselves. Like that's where I'm at with it. And it's not because the Nuggets are unbeatable, pretty damn good, obviously, but it's just I think I covered like 11 games in that building, regular season games. I never saw them win.
No,
No
it's bad.
matter who was playing for them or who was on the other side. This is not the second night of a back-to-back, which is a rarity. For some reason, the NBA always used to schedule LA, typically the Clippers, and
To
then
Denver.
scheduling the Lakers, finish in Denver. And I would always Be talking to Dwayne after the game in LA. You playing tomorrow? F no. So we knew it before he even showed up, and Mike Miller was like, I better get ready because you knew that Mike or James Jones was going to be getting those minutes in Denver. So again, 2-2 trip I think would be fine for this team. You look at the way the schedule sets up: 5 games in March against Washington and Detroit. So they're in better shape. And as we talk here, Greg, Philadelphia lost today. Milwaukee does get a win, so they move a little bit further ahead of Miami. And I think Heat fans should eye that 3 seed, but at
Yeah.
least push to the 6-5 seeds. There's a path here with the Sixers continuing to drop.
The Heat have won 4 straight on the road. They're going to be starting their 30th different starting lineup in Sacramento. That's just insane. And they have 16 road wins, which is third most in the East. So things are looking up at this current moment, all things considered, for this team. And I think after I pronounced them dead at a current moment this year. So the minute that I said that is when all of this turned around. So I'm taking credit. No, honestly, it's funny the way that the ebbs and flows of a season happen. Nothing is a given. They still need to go out and get one. The Sacramento game can be tough, but also Sacramento can lay eggs. So I think you can go in there and get one depending on how you play, how you come out, how you shoot. But this is an interesting scenario where the Heat have an opportunity to really move up in the standings. 4 games back in the loss column from Philadelphia, who was in 3. Or I think it's not Philadelphia in 3, Milwaukee in 3. Excuse me. They to be that close, they're within striking distance. You talked about their schedule with the games against Detroit, so I think we're in for. This is the stretch run. And so Jimmy kind of alluded to it as he walked out of the tunnel and said, like, on social media, it's about that time. This is that time. These are all good, positive things, despite the suspensions for the Heat.
And look, they know what the schedule sets up as. The players are typically aware of that. And, these things do tend to coincide. Everybody points to, Pat taking over for Stan in the 2005, 2006 season as a turning point. You know what else was a turning point? Shaq got healthy, and then the schedule loosened up. And then you go to the 2010, 2011 season. They were 9-8. Everybody points to the team meeting as being this big thing with Dwayne going around and then locking the doors in Dallas after Bumpgate and everything else. You know what else helped? Their next 22 games were not against really good teams, and they won 21 of them. A lot of times it's the schedule that dictates this stuff, and it's just like the other stuff sort of comes together around it. And I think that's what we're looking at here. I think a 3-1 trip for Miami would be exceptional, especially if you look at the way they went into the break and some of the positivity that we've seen here. And it's not just this, this skirmish where everybody had everybody's back, which I think is a real positive, but also apparently there was a team event that was organized. You saw a lot of guys at the wineries on Saturday. So they're starting to do more things together. It feels like things are starting to gel a little bit. A win in Sacramento in that building would be significant. They've played, look, they and the Kings have played tight games against each other recently. If Tyler does not play, I would expect to see a lot of DeLon Wright chasing De'Aaron Fox, and probably Haywood Highsmith gets a lot of that assignment as well. But the big thing is, at least you got Bam and Sabonis now, which
Yep.
I'll be flat out here. If I had been on Prize Picks using the code 5 FIVE, get your initial deposit matched up to $100. I don't know that I would have expected Bam to be on the board on Monday night. I thought Bam was a suspension, honestly. So
Yep.
they got him to close the game, and now they'll get him to start the game in the next game. Again, I mentioned Prize Picks. Thanks as always to them for sponsoring. If you are in the state of Florida, I mentioned this on the last pod. Make sure the first thing, you'll be able to get your money out, no problem. But during this hiatus period, and I'm going to call it a hiatus period, where they're working to change the game a little bit to satisfy regulators in the great, well, not so great state of Florida. Make sure that if you want to play, if you got any promo funds in there, use them now. So use the code 5 FIVE, but you will be able to withdraw any of your money in your balance and any of your winnings during this hiatus period. Check them out. Again, Prize Picks. If you're out of the state, you're not even affected by this. We're going to continue to promote Prize Picks. for our out-of-state people, and our friend Greg, who's in South Carolina, which is somehow a more liberal state than Florida on this particular issue. He's going to be plunging his brains out on PrizePicks.com. Anyway, have a good day, everybody. Another episode coming. Brady and I are going to break down the defensive improvement. We just wanted to give you a quick one. Check out the Heat Culture episode as well. Have a good one, everyone.
Thank you for listening to the 5 on the Floor on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. After all, someone needs to listen to my dad.